Jane Mann, I'm with the Coalition for the Upper South Platte. Excuse me. The Coalition for the Upper South Platte is a watershed protection organization. This year we're celebrating 25 years. Is that, she's still okay. Generally being heard is not a challenge that I face, so I struggle with this. We are this year celebrating 25 years as an organization preserving and protecting the health of the Upper South Platte watershed. The organization was formed generally in response to several different things, the Buffalo Creek fire, and so the stakeholders came together to form this organization as a voluntary organization to do projects to preserve the values of the Upper South Platte, as well as water quality and the area. Unfortunately, yeah, I have to apologize in advance. Like all of my text is in the lower left-hand corner. The slides, not great planning on my part, and so we were hoping that we might be able to move that, and don't seem to be able to do that. And I hate to read to you, and I won't read this word salad of our mission because it's really long. We'll just move forward a little bit and see how we do it. What is a watershed? A watershed is an area of land where all the water that falls in it and drains off of it goes to a common outlet. So, yeah, we're stuck with it, sorry. So, it's like a big bathtub is the watershed. We focus on the Upper South Platte watershed. This is actually the North Platte and the South Platte rivers join at North Platte, Nebraska. That's also a watershed. Then to form the Platte River, and the Platte River then drains into the Missouri, and that's a watershed. So you can see that it builds and builds. This is, of course, as we've talked about, the headwaters of the Upper South Platte. A map of the South Platte watershed. The green line is the actual map, or is the line on a map. We understand the impacts of our activities, and nature goes well outside of that boundary, and so we do work outside of the actual physical boundary on the map. The orange blotches that you see, those are fire scars. That's a big focus of a lot of our work, is fire recovery. And then some of that text that you can't really see, but you can see that there are words there, those are areas where we work. So we're just going to talk about some of the work that the Coalition for the Upper South Platte does in the watershed. This is the one slide where the text is on the right, and then it's on the left. So water quality is really why we are here. Everything that we do is based on trying to enhance the water quality in the watershed. Of course, we can do more with water quality. We can't really do anything with water quantity, but this is what our focus is in the watershed. We've done some extensive monitoring throughout the watershed. This is a project that we partnered with SPINA on, and we appreciate their support on that. Some concerns about the impacts of historic as well as modern mining on the river was the impetus for some of the sampling that we've done. In 2018, we did testing in the water quality testing in the spring, the summer, and the fall. So we wanted to get a range of water flows. And we tested above and below some of these mining areas or some of the discharge areas. With that information and some previous data that we had, we were able to develop what they call a 9-element EPA plan, a very specific plan that the EPA approves, and that helped us identify projects in the watershed that would help us work that we needed to be done to help with water quality. This removes one of the last barriers to connectivity in the river for 45 miles. So from the 11-mile dam to Cheeseman Reservoir to improve the habitat throughout there. So, excuse me, a big part of the project is to take out that structure as well as to restore the riverbed, get the sediment out of there, and improve the river and riparian habitat. So in the picture in the lower right-hand corner, the dam is actually downriver, and this is the structure that they've built to be able to take that dam out. So we can't stop the river. We still need to provide water going through there. So what they've done is built basically a second channel off to the side of the river. They are starting to block the river off. You can see that in the upper left-hand corner. With that piece of equipment, they've got big bags full of native soil, and they're blocking the river through there, and it will channel right down through that temporary channel so that they can take the structure out and not impede, number one, the fish, but also then the river. Hopefully they're going to start taking out that concrete structure here in the next couple weeks, and then once they get that out, then they'll start working on the river channel itself and restoring the original cross sections, as well as we think that we have the ability to do that. And then we will be doing riparian area restoration in the spring of next year. We have completed some work several years ago in the Happy Meadows area, and this is actually, again, in the Lake George area of the river. Happy Meadows is a very accessible and popular recreation area for folks, and so it gets really heavy use. One of the projects that we were able to do was help channelize the river through there, where the river unnaturally spreads, causes the water to heat up, impacts the habitat. So we were able to channelize that river to a more natural form and improve the habitat through there. One of the other projects that we're still working on, and this is in cooperation with Aurora Water and Denver Water, is to harden some of the river access points to reduce erosion and sedimentation. This picture is a site in Deckers, which of course is very heavily used by anglers, and everybody, their first instinct is to just scramble down that riverbank to get to that river, to get to those fish, and it really causes erosion, and it just exacerbates as the drainage goes through and more people use the site. So if we can harden those sites and encourage people to use those access points, it really helps with the habitat through there with the river. Another area of our that we focus on, forestry projects and fire mitigation, neighborhood fuels reduction. We run slash sites, community-focused efforts, and post-fire restoration are the ones that you can't see up there. Our neighborhood fuels reduction program is set up to help property owners and homeowners associations manage the slash from fire mitigation projects. So we have a mobile chipper that we bring to communities, and we help them chip that slash material. Most of them will take the wood from cutting trees and they'll use the wood, but that slash material, it just has no value. So we're able to help them chip that up. And that's one of our more popular programs. We're, during the summer, pretty busy hauling the chipper around the watershed. We do operate 3 slash sites where people can haul their slash to the site for disposal, Divide, Bailey, and Fairplay. The Bailey and Fairplay sites are supported by Park County, supported financially by Park County, and we really appreciate that. They also give us the sites to use. And these are really popular with folks who are doing work on their own property and they can haul their slash to these sites. We are closed, the slash sites are closed for this year, but we anticipate those opening in Memorial Day next year. They usually run Memorial Day to Labor Day. And there's information on our website about that, which is something you can't see. So really with these programs, what we're trying to do is to work directly with the communities, to implement plans, to engage property owners and residents, to really take ownership of their fire mitigation, their fire risk, forest health projects. Part of that is developing community wildfire protection programs, protection plans, which are community-led to identify areas of fire risk, identify actions that can be taken. And we find that when somebody starts mitigating in a neighborhood, it has positive impacts on the adjoining properties as well. This is actually a property in Teller County. The red is, all of the colors, but the red is the areas of the highest fire risk. And so you can see in this area of Arabian Acres, there's just a lot going on. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done to help with the sustainability of these communities and their ability to survive a fire if it comes through or prevent a fire. And one of the things that's very important about these community wildfire protection plans is that grant funding is based on projects that are identified in the plans. And we hope to, we're submitting an application, in fact, this fall to update Park County's community wildfire protection plan. And then again, that's where the grant funding flows to complete projects for fire mitigation. We still have a lot of work on post-fire mitigation. We found that post-fire recovery is a marathon, it's not a sprint, and we continue to do a lot of projects. A lot of this is based on our experience of what has worked in the past and what continues to work. One of the biggest things with wildfire mitigation in wildfire burn scars is to control the erosion and sedimentation. This structure that you see here is actually intended to remain in place in that drainage, slow down the water coming through there, sediment up behind it, almost like an artificial beaver dam if there were beavers that were interested in burned trees. So we're creating that so that we can create a sustainable site going into the future. Again, erosion control, we do a lot of tree planting in the burn scars. This is actually a group from a group of volunteers that comes from the El Paso County Bar Association, and they are planting in the Waldo Canyon burn area. They come every year. And we continue to work on reestablishing vegetation in that area. And one of our recent projects, the Weston Pass fire, occurred in 2018. We actually had pretty disappointing success in reestablishing vegetation in there. So we got our volunteers, and our volunteers spread about 10,000 seed balls. And you can see that bucket of seed balls. Those are, it's native, our native seed mix, mixed with clay, soil, and compost. And the seed balls really give the seeds a chance to survive and establish. Keeps the birds from eating the seeds, keeps the deer from eating the young sprouts as they come up. And it was really very successful. We were really pleased. So you can see on the left just a few of those seed balls in the bare ground. And then this is what it looked like the following fall. So really a cool and innovative way to get some of this revegetation. Environmental education in the magazine, there's an article about our program cooperation with SPINA on the High Creek Fen. I think Kara was talking about how unique the geology and the water and the environment is here in Park County. And the High Creek Fen is a very rare fen site. And so it's a lot of fun for us to take out classes from South Park Middle School and then Buena Vista High School. And we get these kids out there, they do annual monitoring, they do water monitoring, they capture bugs. You can see in the ice cube trays, they're looking at bugs and identifying those. We can monitor that water quality over time. They also do a heritage tour of the Radcliffe Homestead, which has its own story and its own Park County story, which is really cool. And we just find that sometimes, I think exactly what Kara was saying is you got to get the kids out, you got to get them dirty, you got to get them mucking around, and they love it, and they have fun, and then they appreciate the area where they live and the uniqueness of the area where they live. We work also on recreation improvements. And we'll talk about a couple of these. We work with Sanborn Western Camps. We have the campers, and they are do a forced volunteer day, I guess you'd call it, for lack of any, to work on trails at Sanborn Camps. So every year we have the campers. They also help us with noxious weeds from Sanborns. We have an agreement with Denver Water for the Upper Gill Cheeseman Trail in the Deckers area. And then the Trumbull area, we do a Forest to Faucets. We maintain a trail there where Aurora Water brings out teachers and works with teachers on the importance of the forest for water quality. And we help them with that. This was a project that SPINA helped us fund for the restoration and reconstruction of the Corral Cove Trail at 11 Mile State Park. It's a hike-in camping site, and the trail went right through the wetlands. So, of course, it was always a mess, and then people would wander off to try and get out of the muddy trail. And so it really needed to be elevated outside of up above the wetlands areas, installing some drainage, improved drainage. I love this picture. Wendy's out there, in the trenches working, and the two guys are looking at the lake, wishing that they were fishing, So, not going to make a comment on that, but this year we've also worked with the Forest Service on some access management in Happy Meadows. Again, Happy Meadows is it gets so much use. And you can see on the right-hand side of this post and cable fence that we put in how torn up that meadow is. And unfortunately, with a lot of people, if we don't say don't drive into the meadow and right up to the river, they do it. You have to make sure that you're very clear in your instructions. And we also were trying to limit the parking on that county road. It really became quite an issue with the parking on the road. So lots of fencing, lots of barriers to keep people out of that area. We also developed some designated parking areas with designated sites. And hopefully, I think most people will recognize that when those parking lots are full, the area's full and they need to go find someplace else to be instead of just jamming in. This fall, we will install some outhouses in that area, which again is a huge issue when you have that many people and a huge water quality issue. And so that's a big improvement in the Happy Meadows area. We also worked with the Forest Service this last couple of years in Buffalo Creek for fire ring installation in a dispersed camping area. Again, Buffalo Creek area, very accessible to the Front Range, north of Deckers. Lots of people come, pull off on the side of the road, gather up some rocks and some dead trees and light a fire. And so we were able to identify the sites where people were putting fires and put in some established fire rings, hopefully reducing the fire risk in the area as well as the erosion issues that just come off of those uncontrolled fire rings. Another one of our projects, and Kara talked about this as well, noxious weeds. This is a big volunteer program that we have. This group that the picture you see is from Up With People, and they are the happiest volunteers ever. They come every year and they get out there and they dig up thistles and they sing and they just have the best time, and they're so much fun to be around. And they love it. They just absolutely have a great time. But we always have to remind our property owners that controlling weeds on your property is Colorado state law, and we want to keep weeds from invading grazing areas, natural areas, places where the weeds just outcompete all of the native plants. Many of these have been introduced as ornamentals. The scentless chamomile looks like a really pretty white daisy, and people just love that. Or what we used to call when I was a kid butter and eggs, and it's toad flax. And that stuff, it takes 10 years to get rid of because it's so invasive. And something to keep in mind as well is many of these weeds are toxic to both domestic and wild animals. So we want to make sure that we're monitoring those. So that is a very mountaintop view of what CUSP is up to, what we've been doing. We want to encourage everybody to make a difference in the Upper South Platte watershed. We are so appreciative of the partnerships that we have, particularly with SPINA. And there are things that we all can do. Organize your neighbors for a mitigation day, arrange for the chipper to come to your neighborhood, find out about noxious weeds, and ask for help in getting rid of them. Question?
Yeah, one of the things that's been in the news this year has been restrictions on access to the water flows to anglers or to hunters when the river flows through private property. And as you're talking about things like the 45 miles of habitat between 11 Mile and Cheeseman reservoirs, a lot of that must flow through private property. Do you have any powers other than persuasion to help private property owners control the weeds, control the bank erosion, things like that?
The question is about private property and the river flowing through private property, and truly no. All of our programs are voluntary. We do, I think, as with all of these other programs that we've talked about and will talk about, the goal is to, thank you so much. The goal is really through education to encourage people to act, but we don't have any regulatory authority. With the weeds, the state does, because that is a law that you need to control weeds on your property. I don't know how well that's enforced or who enforces it even, who has the ability to do that. But in terms of what we do, it's all voluntary. So spread the good word. That's my message. Any other questions?